getting on here, making another video. It's me, Zelric. Hi. Um, I didn't really plan on making one today because I was just going to wait for the release, but I felt kind of compelled to due to certain more details we've gotten for our Tactician build, alongside our Tactician Artillery Ballista build, to be specific, alongside just a first things first, kind of a thank you again for I put this in the one of the previous videos I've made, but um, it may just be luck, it may be whatever, but um, I've gotten a lot of traction on that very first video I made, and it kind of blows me away that it's happened. I didn't feel like I was just talking with a build that I really was excited to play as, and I made a couple mistakes, as someone who's just now starting to really get into making videos would, alongside the fact that I'm not super experienced when it comes to making builds, but people seem to have come out and been really supportive so far of what I've been doing with the build, and just kind of suggesting other things, telling me updates, and giving me their experience on what they know of from like PoE1 and stuff like that. And I just, everybody, you don't know how much it means to me that people have just come out and been so supportive. It means a lot because I've kind of been wanting to do this for a long time, this whole YouTube thing, Twitch, stuff like that, but it never really felt like a goal I could reach for various reasons. But because of the recent traction that video got, and it may have, again, just been a fluke because the other two videos I made haven't gotten that much traction, but still, the fact that that first one got so much traction means that something resonated with somebody, regardless of what I feel about the video. Something resonated with enough people, and stars have aligned. So my ranting is just a way of saying thank you so much. And if you do find this video after you've watched the first one, I hope you stick around, and I hope I can provide enough for you to want to do that. And I plan to in the future, for as long as I can remain interesting and have interesting things to say on builds I want to make and stuff like that. Then I'll keep putting it out, and um, release my opinion on certain things. Just kind of do my thing. But yeah, ultimately, thank you very much. But on to the main content of what I wanted to do with this little update is, first of all, there's been a couple new notes. These are the patch notes that they released today, actually, I think, or yesterday. I can't remember. Anyway, excuse me, I'm saying a lot. Anyway, Artillery Ballista and Ripwire Ballista now have an aggro range of 8 meters. That's pretty good. That means that, first of all, there was another bug fix where they made it to where your ballistas no longer fired against inanimate objects. So now they're going to be firing at, the right target. And they'll be doing it from further away. So you won't have to do this as much. It is kind of awkward because if we're playing Tactician and we're going to be going watch how I do it, presence in your presence is now 4 meters instead of 6. So it is kind of weird that they'll be able to fire from double the range where you're going to have to stand next to them. But, that's not really a big deal. Other thing is, Artillery Ballistas has been getting just stonks level of crazy buffs. We don't even know the actual numbers of the skill itself, but so far, even if it stays the same, or honestly, even if it gets slightly worse to compensate for all the rest of the buffs around it, I feel like it's still in a way better spot now than it was in the first league. Like, it could get a numerical nerf and still be way better than it was in the first league. I also said in my first video of this build that I went Ignite with my first setup, and I'm actually kind of thinking I might not do that anymore because Ignite just isn't in a good space as far as I know. So unless there's some numerical changes or new support gems to kind of help Ignite go further, or new unique gems that help you ignite get further, I'm probably not going to run that direction. So tentatively, right now, I'm probably going to just go just a straight hit build, probably crit later on if I can convert pretty easily. That's the idea, is just an artillery ballista hit build that hopefully clears and does what I want it to. If not, we can just use whatever, like a siege cascade with what the changes I plan on doing to this, which I'll say in a second. We could use siege cascade as one of our main attacking skills alongside our artillery ballista. That means that we'll basically be constantly immobilizing enemies and constantly getting this 200% more damage on them. I don't know, but this is obviously dependent on how often we can get the pin off on enemies, and we don't know that yet. We don't know how often. We do know that it's slower now because in these patch notes I think it was 48% less pin buildup. But with Tactician, every single projectile builds pin. So all projectile damage, quote, builds pin. So I don't know. We may need to like switch between a pin building ammo round and then going to Siege Ballista to do a lot of damage while they're pinned, and swapping back and forth while spamming out our artillery ballistas. Hopefully, with the mana changes as well, that we'll be able to sustain mana a little bit better, alongside maybe some hopeful persistent buffs that we might be able to include in that little equation there. Regardless, that's kind of what I wanted to get out right off the bat, was this. There's a couple of support that we may have used nerfed, but I don't think that's going to make major changes really. If this can shotgun, because they launch 3 projectiles now, if it can shotgun, like all 3 hit one target, this thing's going to do massive damage. It's going to be crazy. If it can't, it's still going to be crazy because you're still doing 3 times the damage it was doing before. So even if it stays the literal exact same, it's doing 3 times the damage it was before, just based off of how many projectiles it has baseline, and I am so happy about that. On to the Tactician itself. In my first video, I was gung-ho about going cannons ready. I no longer think that's going to be a good idea unless they have a planned change. I know in one of the interviews they mentioned that cannons ready, the way it works here, is bad. Mark specifically said that if it does work this way, which he couldn't remember off the top of his head, that he knew it was bad and he would probably change it, and or it was already changed. So if this is changed to be something other than this, and it might be better, we can think about using it. But for now, because we don't have that information, I'm just going to assume it's not been changed, and that'll come in a later patch. So Cannons Ready is out. What I plan on doing, because one of the commenters I read said this, and it's probably a great idea, is I still think you go watch how I do it last as your Uber Lab, but you go a solid plan as your first ascendancy to get some more auras online. Then, in my opinion, you go the pinning stuff, because that enables a lot more damage from like things like Siege Cascade as like one of your main damaging skills, especially if Ignite hasn't changed. Because I was actually using a gas grenade and explosive grenade as my way of clearing, so now that those have been massively nerfed, I'm going to need some other way of clearing. So I think that the changes to Siege Cascade can probably make that happen, especially if we can get this pin. So I think we go a solid plan first, then suppressing fire, then right where we want them, then watch how I do it first. Now, you could swap watch how I do it and right where we want them, depending on how you feel. If you feel like at the time of getting to maps you're not quite doing enough damage, you go ahead and get watch how I do it if you have a good weapon. The problem about watch how I do it is it's reliant on your main weapon doing a lot of damage, and to get the most value out of it, you're gonna need... What the heck? I don't wanna... I'm sorry. I don't know why that was popping up. Anyway, um, to get the most value out of it, you're going to need a good weapon. Does that mean that it won't give you any value? No, it's still going to give you value, but the better the weapon you have, the better the damage you get, the more value you get out of the node. Thus, it stands to reason, the later you can get Watch How I Do It, the better. The better it will be for you in the long run. And of course, this defensively is going to be amazing. The fact that it basically makes Pin into another freeze, another style of freeze, without it being freeze, therefore not allowing enemies the chance to like have ailment threshold against you, and like that will work in your favor. That's amazing, in my opinion, and will be a massive defensive layer for you. The 8% spirit increase node is also pretty great, so we maybe be able to use a specter and or a tamed companion in order to use utility. I don't know. That's a tentative thing, but if you have enough spirit and buffs and the persistent buffs aren't really doing it for you, and like banners aren't really a thing that we're gonna probably want to get too much into, then and if you have enough spirit left over, which you probably won't unless it's like something small, but I'll have to check it. But there may be some cheaper specters that could maybe, hopefully, help us out. I don't know. I wouldn't rely upon that, but it is a thought in my head that you could possibly use it. Anyway, that's been my thoughts so far and updates on this build. If you have any questions, thoughts of your own that you might want to add, or anything like that, please tell me about them in the comments. I appreciate your input, and every word you say brings me joy. As cliche as that is at this point for every YouTuber to say, I do mean it. It means the world to me that people are willing to watch what I put out and think what I say is valuable enough to spend their time on it. So thank you so much. Y'all are awesome. I know it feels wrong almost, but if you find this video and you've made it this far, please like and subscribe. All the interaction you can do helps the channel out, get more subscribers and stuff. And the more subscribers I can get, the more watch time I can get means eventually maybe I might be able to do this full time instead of having to kind of do it in between work and fit it in where I can. So that is the goal after all for me right now, but I know that's a pipe dream. Anyway, thank y'all so much. I appreciate you. Peace out, guys.